What's going on, everybody? This is the Overlook Drive-In. Things are kind of everywhere. Sort of some technical difficulties right out of the gate there during the intro. So apologies for that. I don't know if anybody else heard it. I know I sure as hell did. Had to take off my headset to heard it. We're live though, and Happy New Year. It's 2023, and what better way to start off the new year with, in what my opinion anyway, is the best film of 2022, Matt Reeves, the Batman. Joining me as always, he is the host of the Take One podcast. It's Mr. Mike Bish. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Excited to be here. Yeah, man. 2023. I can't believe it's already a new year. Absolutely crazy. Got some good movies to look forward to this year, man. And going back and rewatching the Batman over the past couple of days. Um, you know, I'm appreciative of having this movie, getting this movie. I feel like it's been a century ago since we gotten this movie, but there's been a lot of really, really good movies in 2022, and the Batman is in my top three, man. It's really good, and I can't wait to dive into it.
Yeah, I just had a chance to sit down and watch this thing again, and it is the first time. Apologies for the background noise there, people. You're going to hear Facebook going off a little bit here. Um, it holds up for me. I hadn't watched it since March. Both times I've seen it were in March. Seen it in theaters, seen it in like an IMAX VIP theater the first time, and that was the sound design for that movie is glorious. And then I seen it in like
Yeah,
your normal run of the mill theater, and I still liked it a lot, but it was like, oh, when you lose that like top tier sound quality and visual quality, it's like, okay, it slips a little bit. I fucking love this movie, and I cannot wait to dive into it. But before we dive into this movie, there's another topic that's been coming up a little bit around the interweb circles, and that is franchise fatigue a thing? So, what they mean by that is, do you think Marvel and DC and Star Wars and The Walking Dead and I suppose the Chicago series online or any of the Shonda Rhimes stuff, like it is connecting franchises, connecting multiple properties across, motion picture films or television? Is it a little oversaturated nowadays? Mike, what's your opinion on this? Because I know it's a bit of a hot button issue.
yeah. So I guess when you ask this question, are you just talking about the worlds that intersect each other, or are you talking about everything, like including David Gordon Green's Halloween and the new Screams? Are we talking about that as well?
Yeah,
All franchises?
all of it, yeah, for sure.
It's interesting, man. I've never been huge into Marvel, so I don't follow that timeline. Same with DC. Like I love the Spider-Man movies. I love both Black Panther movies. I'm just not into that world, so I'm not going to comment on those individually. Maybe you can talk on that better than I can, along with Star Wars. There is a couple things I want to touch on real quick, and one graphic that you have on there is The Walking Dead. Um, I'll say this: I stopped watching The Walking Dead probably about season 8. And I'll be honest with you, man. Like I was over at a friend's house a couple months ago, and she had on The Walking Dead, and it was like season 2, and I just was like, man, I kind of rolled my eyes, but I found myself stuck and glued to that TV screen, and I decided to go back and kind of watch a couple seasons of The Walking Dead, man. And those first 6 to 7 seasons are absolutely fucking phenomenal in my opinion. Like they still hold up. They now like rewatching it, I realized what drug people in and had them watching every Sunday night. I remember volunteering at the fire department when I was like 16, 17, and that's all everybody did was glued to that screen on Sunday night. And I understand why. But it kind of got outplayed. I kind of just lost interest in it. The story got kind of boring in my opinion. And that's kind of where the fatigue set in for me personally. I know there's still people that follow that series, but again, I go back and man, if you were able to end The Walking Dead around season 7, maybe even 8, in my opinion, Sean, it would have been probably one of the best franchises, TV of TV show wise of all time. And you know, the numbers wise, I'm sure it'll still be up there. But for me personally, like, you know, I look at Stranger Things and I'm excited and sad, but excited they're not going to extend their, you know, overstay their welcome with ending it at 5 seasons. I look at Sons of Anarchy. I think that they ended it at season 7, I believe, which was absolutely a perfect time to end it. You know, shows like that really stand up for me. You know, Game of Thrones, you know, maybe they could even went longer. You just never know. And when it comes to shows like that, so yes, I do think fatigue plays a factor. And last thing I'll say on the fatigue, switching over to movies, is listen, man, as much as I love Michael Myers and Halloween, it's my favorite serial killer of all time, horror icon of all time, favorite franchise of all time. You know, we talked about it, man, after my round table, and even after, you know, on the Take One podcast, and even after coming on Phantom Empire and talking with you multiple times about it, I've mentioned it, man. I was exhausted talking about Halloween Ends, and I was kind of excited for it to end. And I don't know, man. The fatigue set in with that franchise. I still love it. Don't get me wrong, but like, I guess the way with my happiness and not liking the way ends turned out to be, and you know, all that plays a factor. And you know, going through my horror movies, top horror movies of 2022 on the Last Take One podcast, man, there's a lot of originals in there, like X and Pearl and Barbarian. Like, I really appreciate 2022 horror for what we got as far as original movies. So original movies, in my opinion, especially in the horror genre, really stood out for me in 2022, and a lot more fatigue, especially with like Halloween set in 2022 for me.
Yeah, it's kind of how I view it, man. Like, I was excited for Halloween Ends about still around the time we were seeing Halloween Kills. And then some of the stuff started to come out about what the movie was going to be. Like some of the more ironclad stuff. And it's the movie we got. And like, so for me, I'd say almost this time last year, you know, January, February is when I was like, yeah, I'm out. Like, this is, again, like whenever we do get to Halloween Ends on the Overlook, and we will get there eventually, it's probably going to score pretty good. But as a fan, that movie, before I ever laid eyes on it, knowing what the premise of the movie was, it wasn't for me, you know? So it's for some, it's not for others. That's fine too.
I mean, yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And real quick, just not going through all these movies, but you know, we had Scream, we had Halloween. You know, none of those made my top 12 as far as favorite horror movies of 2022, man. All of them are originals that came out this year that I really appreciate. And I love, man. I think there's I don't know, there's, as much as I love, you know, Halloween and Scream, and I'm excited for Scream 6. I like what I see, but you know, there comes a time where the fatigue does sit in, especially when a movie doesn't work for you. I think for me personally, that's where the fatigue really sets in. And then especially around Halloween Ends, I keep going back to that movie because the toxicity online with that movie was just through the roof, and I was just exhausted. Like, no matter which side you were on, both sides had their people that were strongly in the wrong and being just so disrespectful online, and it was just exhausting. And I was so excited, really, just to move off of that. I didn't even care what we talked about after Halloween Ends. I just was so ready to move off that topic.
I don't hold that against you at all, dude. It was, as someone who loves Star Wars, it got extremely toxic. Because that's exactly what happened with Star Wars after The Last Jedi. It was there was a little bit of that after Rogue One, which I definitely don't agree with today. But man, like, it got really bad out there. And we don't watch. You can not like a movie. There's nothing wrong with not liking a movie. You know, it sucks when you pay big bucks to go see it in the cinema nowadays, and then you walk into that movie theater and go, "Wow, I just." You know, if you're with your significant other and you've gotten popcorn and pop and, you know, snacks or whatever, I just blew $100 and this movie sucked. You're probably not feeling very good.
Yeah, and that was my thing. I don't go into these movies walking out and wanting to hate them. Why would I ever go into a movie, especially a franchise that I love like Halloween and Scream, walking out not enjoying those like that's not what I want. I want to go into a movie like um X or The Black Phone and walk out and just be like, wow, that shocked me. Wasn't expecting that. Like I really like that. And I enjoyed Scream a lot more than, even though I'm not high on it as some people are, a lot more than I did with Halloween Ends, man. So I just I mean, thinking back on it, man, it's just it gives me a little bit of nightmares going through my head here because I just remember, it was only a few months ago how toxic that is, and it's a lot of people are doing episodes and of the top 10 favorite movies of the year, horror movies, and the topic is resurfacing again online, especially on Twitter, and it's exhausting, man. I've definitely limited my time on Twitter because that topic has come up again, and I just not here for it.
That topic will never go away either. If it's anything like Star Wars was, like it's here to stay. And
Let me
anytime it reminds people of that movie, it's going to come. Like The Last Jedi came out more than 5 years ago, and that movie. It's not just that movie, but that movie is what
Yeah.
really created a divide in the Star Wars fan base and got super toxic. Fans attacking other fans just because they like something that they don't, or they hate something that someone else doesn't. Um, and
let
5 years
let
later,
me
whenever it comes up, it's bad.
let me ask you this. Do you feel like there is more toxicity around Halloween Ends than Rob Zombie's Halloween films?
Yes.
I feel because I feel that way, and I feel like it's not even close. Like you either like Rob Zombie, I just don't see people like bashing people and being so disrespectful to people that enjoy the Rob Zombie films the way that the Halloween Ends conversation is. Like it's ridiculous. And I never thought that a Halloween film would be as divisive as the Rob Zombie films, and boy was I totally wrong.
I think the problem is, right, like, people can say they're not high on Halloween 2018, and people can say they're not high on Halloween Kills. And the simple truth is, with those franchises, um, and specifically the Halloween franchise, they were coming off of Halloween 2018, which commercially and critically was received extremely well. Like, at the end of the day, you can have whatever problem you want with that movie, but guess what? That movie made $255 million worldwide
Yeah.
off of a $10 million production budget after advertising everything. You're probably looking at 50, 60 million bucks to break even because they did sink a ton of money into marketing with that movie. And so you start good, and then you get Halloween Kills, and there's a lot of people. The parts that people don't like about Halloween Kills, for the most part, are the political parts, the hospital parts, the Tommy Doyle, the Evil Dies Tonight. You don't hear people going, "Man, that Michael Myers, he was just too violent in that scene. How
Yeah.
dare he? How dare he stick that knife up through that guy's head? Wow, no, that ruined the movie." No, it's not that. So, like, people dug the Michael Myers, most of the Michael Myers stuff, anyways. Most people did. And then you get to the final chapter, and you have like Dean Renner has talked to me a bunch about it lately. He's messaged me. You literally have David Gordon Green and Universal going on their media tour for, at first, the theatrical release, now the physical media release, and blatantly lying to people. And not because someone else said they said something else, because they literally said something else, and it's on record, and now they've changed their story about it. And it's just all in all a bad look. So with Rob Zombie's
Yeah.
movies, the first one was somewhat received well, but a lot of people did not like the whole pardon the lack of better term, but trailer park trash
Yeah.
portion of it, some of the Rob Zombie-ness of it. And so, like, people were out on that immediately. The problem with this, much like with the new Star Wars trilogy, is the first movie came out and everybody was on board.
Yeah.
Or mostly everybody was on board. It was a positive start. You're way up here, and when you go from way up here to way down here, it's kind of like, oh, you guys just shit the bed, and you had it, but you shit the bed.
I've never been a fan of the Rob Zombie films, especially the second one. But man, I've watched it a couple times, and I think, I've mentioned this before when we were talking about it, Sean, either on my podcast or on here, that I've grown to warm up a little bit more with Rob Zombie's Halloween movie, and I'm starting to wonder if that's just because I really don't like ends. Like, I don't and that's a bad way to look at it, but I guess when you see, and this is with not just movies, just anything, music, video games. When you think that you don't like something, and most likely if you don't like something in the beginning, you probably don't like it in general. Like it's just the way it is and how you feel. But when something that you don't enjoy gets released after and you hate that movie so much, you go back and watch something that you thought you hated. Not saying you love that movie, but maybe you appreciate stuff within that film a lot more than you did before because of the product that was put out recently that you didn't like.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes logic. That's sense. It makes logical sense because, like, when I look back at um the newest Star Wars trilogy again, I know you're not a Star Wars guy, but like
No, you're
that
good.
first movie, I still really like. I dig it. It's good. I enjoy watching it. The Force Awakens,
You
and
talking
then
about these are the new releases?
yeah,
Like the
so
newer
2000,
okay.
yeah, 2015 for The Force Awakens from J.J. Abrams. I can watch that movie and be okay with it and like it and enjoy it, and it's actually on the upper part of my like favorite Star Wars list in terms of movies. Rogue One comes out. It wasn't. It's just something else. It's standalone, and I was invested in The Force Awakens, so I was kind of. I reacted a little negatively to Rogue One at first, which I regret because I love that movie. Um, The Last Jedi, which is Episode 8, the follow up to The Force Awakens, killed it for me. And I think the thing is, I loved The Force Awakens when it came out, and The Last Jedi just went this complete opposite direction, didn't really follow what was set up by the previous filmmaker, and so I didn't like it. But then they came back for Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and went in a completely different direction than what Episode 8 did. And like, I think they thought they were fixing things, but they just fucked things up even more. And it was like, okay, maybe I don't mind The Last Jedi. Like, maybe I don't hate it as much as I thought because the newest movie came out and I thought it was way worse than the movie before. The short answer to your question is I agree with your logic because I think I experienced the exact same thing with another franchise.
Yeah. I just thought that was pretty interesting because I found myself watching that movie a couple times over and I'm like, why am I enjoying this more? Like I've seen Rob Zombie's Halloween like 15 times and I haven't liked it the 10 other times I've seen it. Why am I starting, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was on my mind and definitely playing a factor. So I definitely think, franchise fatigue is a thing, man. And I thought that it was, real positive, at least for the horror genre to move into the direction that it did this year as far as original films. I don't know if we'll get this many good original films in 2023. But you never know, man. There's a lot of movies that I was surprised with that, I talked to you before, The Menu. A lot of people have been talking about that. It just came out on HBO Max today, and I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And it's actually really, really good. But that's not a movie that was ever on my radar that, you know what I mean, that I was looking forward to or thought I would enjoy. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of those in 2023 as well.
Yeah, there are movies that come out that you don't give it a second thought. You don't see it for years later, and then you end up like really enjoying it. It's an older one now, but when the Jon Favreau movie Chef came out, I never would have given that a second thought to watch it. Just not my cup of tea. It's not what I'm, you know, there to watch, more or less, you know? And I ended up watching that movie a few years after it came out. And dude, I fucking love that movie.
Yeah.
It's a great family atmosphere type movie. It's fantastic. And who doesn't love food trucks?
That's true. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for what 2023 holds when it comes to movies that I'm looking forward to, and movies that'll shock me as well. But I guess to answer the question again, it's yeah, franchise fatigue is definitely a thing, especially for me this past year with Halloween. I'll be honest with you, I never thought that would ever cross my mind. I am slam the table, give me all the Halloween that you can give me, all the Michael Myers that you can give me, and I think that you put up a poll on one of the shows, how long, or what do you want to see happen next? Do you want there to be a wait? Do you want them to jump it right into something? And again, you asked me this last year or 2 years ago, I would have said, I don't want to wait. Give me all the Michael Myers that you can. And I was just so mentally exhausted from the Halloween franchise, especially from Halloween Ends is what I'm getting at. That I just even as a fan, a diehard fan, I just wanted to break.
No, I mean, I think that's fair, man. I want there to be something else because I don't like Ends as a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
But I also know the smart thing is to not turn around in 2023 and do something right away. I'm not saying there's not going to be something Halloween related in 2024 because I would not sleep on that if I were people. You just don't know. I think 2025 is the most likely thing. Give it time to breathe. But franchise fatigue is definitely a thing. Walking Dead, you brought up earlier, I'm kind of itching to go back and watch the show, and I think the first 4 seasons I'll get a ton out of, and after that, in my opinion, it goes to shit. It doesn't come completely. Those first 4, like the first 2 seasons, the city and the farm are insane. But then I love the governor as a villain. So
the governor. So I'm thinking around. I might be getting my seasons mixed up. It might be 7 or 6. Whenever Negan comes in, like that first season with Negan, I thought was really good. But then that next season, I've really checked out. Like I remember, I don't know if you remember when Negan first came on and he killed Glenn and the other people, and it was so graphic. People were complaining. Yeah, people were complaining, and they had to take. Whenever you go back like on Netflix and we watch the show, they don't show that part anymore. It's kind of, I'm not saying it's bleeped out, but the camera is off somewhere else. They don't show how. I remember watching that live and remembering how graphic that was, and that was
hang on. When you rewatch it, they don't have it in there?
I don't think so. No, you have to find it on YouTube.
They took out Glenn's death and Negan's death.
I mean, they still die, but you don't you see Negan go up with the sledgehammer, but you don't see him come down with it on the head.
Did you see how that first girl dies in Hush? Why are we? Oh my god!
Yeah. I don't know if that was. Maybe that was too much for TV, but again, it's on AMC, and 2, it came on at 9:00 at night, and 3, it gave you a warning at the beginning. I don't know.
Man, I'm pretty sure Netflix cut shit out of Sons of Anarchy too.
Yeah,
I'm fairly certain there's some scenes removed from Sons of Anarchy that aren't in there anymore.
Now that might be on the DVDs, the DVD releases. And it might be on whatever other streaming service they show on, they show The Walking Dead on. But I just remember going back and watching that scene at least a year after, and it wasn't there. It might be on there now, but I remember all of that taking place. But man, they had so much potential. They just dragged that show out way too long. They had so much potential. If they could have wrapped it up around season 6, in my opinion, maybe 7, it'd be up there for me. It'd be up there for me. I think it's still in my top 10. But you're talking about it. It could be up there in the top 5 for me. That was a show. That show, Sons of Anarchy, Stranger Things, like Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead. I was hooked on. Like I binge watched. Like I was hooked on those shows. You couldn't tell me to do nothing.
Wow. That's I noticed you didn't say Game of Thrones there.
That's
higher than Game of Thrones. Wow, I'd be shocked. What? Do you hold Walking Dead higher than Game of Thrones?
Oh, no. It's for me, but this is my personal list. Like Stranger Things is number 1 for me. Do I think it's a better shot show or better overall show than Game of Thrones? No, but for me personally, I just enjoy it more. Then it would be Sons of Anarchy, then Game of Thrones, and then I'd have to sit down and go after that. Yeah. What you got behind you, real quick?
I don't even know. Where am I looking?
That book. That book. I just see dragon on it. See dragon on it.
Is the House of the Dragon companion book?
Is that new? Have you had that?
It's new. Yeah. I've had it since before we moved, but
gotcha.
I've only read a few pages of it because I've had no time. And then the other one is Fire and Blood, which is what the TV series is based on. and then that's a hat you're pretty familiar with.
Yep. Yeah. I hadn't seen that book posted before. I know you had just moved and everything, so everything's displayed a little differently. I just hadn't seen that book, and I was like,
I still don't
looks
have
new.
things the way I want them to be. It'll be a while. So, um, yeah, I don't know. For me, I know people knock the final season of Game of Thrones, and for me, I don't knock the creative choices. I knock how rushed it was. At least in terms of lack of episodes, how much they
Yeah,
condensed the story because they certainly had time. It's not like they rushed it out. They took 2 years for it. Um, but I don't know. A show like Game of Thrones to me constantly went like this, and then maybe at the
agreed.
very end went like that, where The Walking Dead was like up and then slowly came down.
Yeah.
That's just me. Uh anyway, any other franchises you can think of? Marvel's another one for me. I know you're not big into Marvel. I used to be fairly big into Marvel, but now it's just like,
Yeah.
give me your big event movie and I'll catch up on the other shit when I can.
Yeah, I'm the same way with that. Like, I don't know how all of the like, I haven't watched all the Marvel movies, so I watched the big ones. Well, big ones to me, Black Panther, Spider-Man. I'm just not into that world. So, maybe one day I'll get into it. I have started to watch over the past year, like movie by movie by movies. So, I'm just not as invested into it as some other people are. So it's not a big deal for me. Like, I try to watch TV show wise. I did not like She-Hulk. I thought the first 2 episodes were pretty good, and then that just kind of lost me. So I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of Marvel movies that I haven't seen that a lot of people talk about. Um, man, there's I'm not gonna say it because it's like she Shang. What's it called? Do you know? She Shang. I don't
Oh,
know. I'm butchering it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But everybody says that movie is like one of the absolute best in their opinion. So movies like that, I'd go and watch.
You think? I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I went, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not big into that world. So, but we'll see. I was never big into the Harry Potter world, and I got into that. So
Kenny says after Avengers Endgame, the MCU has been hit or miss for me, both films and shows. I'd say they've done very little show wise. I've had any interest in at all. I liked Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I thought they did a very good job of that.
love that movie. Love that movie.
The follow up show. Did
Oh,
I
the
name it
follow
right?
up show. Gotcha.
Sorry,
The Winter Soldier is the movie.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Pardon me.
There you go.
The show. I dug that. I dug Loki. I thought Loki was very well done.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people talk about that.
I haven't been able to get into anything else they've done. Literally anything.
Yeah, Phase 4 movie wise, the only ones that interest me was Spider-Man and Black Panther. All the other ones didn't really interest me. I know everybody's into Doctor Strange, and I don't know, not the biggest fan. But who knows? Maybe I'll watch those movies and like them.
Not the biggest Doctor Strange fan, huh? I haven't seen the new movie.
But
And here's the thing. I seen his first movie, and I didn't like it. Wasn't into it at all. Didn't do it for me. But every, team up movie he's a part of,
he's good in it.
seem to like. Yeah, I almost never have an issue.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Again,
So
maybe it's something I get into.
I don't really know what to make of that, but
Like
I don't know.
there's a bunch. Again, I told you I'm trying to catch up on movies that I didn't get to see in 2022. Like there's a couple I want to watch. I'm knocking the menu out. I want to watch The Fableman. I think is what it's called. It's a Steven Spielberg movie. I think it's Fableman or Fable something. It's about Steven Spielberg as a kid. Basically a movie about him growing up in his life, as far as what got him into movies. But it's an actual movie, and a lot of people are talking about that. It's supposed to be up for a lot of awards, so I'll probably check that out. But yeah, everything everywhere all at once was the movie that probably shocked me the most outside of that. Either that and Barbarian. Those were
I never
good
seen that.
movies.
I never did get to see that movie, and
I just watched it 2 weeks ago.
I've heard nothing but positive things about it.
Yeah. I remember watching the first 15 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not seeing the hype. And then, man, it's such a great movie. It's streaming. You know, if you ever get a chance to watch it, I forgot HBO Max, I think something.
Crave up here.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah. HBO doesn't technically exist on its own in Canada, so
Gotcha.
yep. Anyways, let's get into our feature. Actually, before we do, the question is, what do you guys and gals out there think about franchise fatigue? Is there franchises you're getting sick of? I don't have franchise fatigue from Star Wars. I did for a bit, but I feel like Star Wars has reached a point where it's like, hey, we're going to do all these different things, but it's not all going to be the same. It's going to be different. So you have options, where I feel like a lot of the Marvel stuff we get is very, very similar. And so I think if anything, Marvel might be able to take a page of the Star Wars book and just say, hey, everything we do is not going to be for you,
Yeah.
but some of the things we will be. And then that way you're reaching more of an audience. So for once, I actually think Kathleen Kennedy has the right idea, but we'll see if that continues or not.
I also think that one of the reasons that I really, really like Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it felt like a phase 2, phase 1 Marvel movie. And you know, I've watched a couple in phase 4 that didn't feel that way at all. It felt like, I don't know, just a lot of story building and just, you know, not, I don't know. So that's one of the reasons why I think I really like Wakanda Forever. Is because it did feel like one of those classic Marvel movies that I do enjoy and really like.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I get it. I'm trying to think of the last Marvel movie I've seen. It might have been No Way Home. And I dug No Way Home. I dug
Yeah, it was really
Far
good.
From Home too. I wasn't a big fan of Homecoming, but I dug Far From Home and No Way Home a lot. So anyways, without further ado, and we will get to our sponsors at the end of the show. Apologies, I'm literally preparing show stuff as we're doing the show. But without further ado, let's dive in to the Batman. And as we do, we'll take a little brief 80-second break to refill our drinks and come back on the flip side. So in the meantime, tune into the intro once more. And we're back. And we're back talking Matt Reeves' The Batman, released in 2022. Written and directed by Matt Reeves, produced by Dylan Clark and Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, John Turturro, Peter Sarsgaard, Andy Serkis, and Colin Farrell as one Oswald Cobblepot. The cinematography on this movie was done by Greg Fraser, which is they're kind of lucky they had him. The story behind that is Greg Fraser did a lot of work on The Mandalorian, the first people to utilize the stagecraft technology. And the Batman was not supposed to utilize any of the stagecraft technology, but the pandemic happened and it delayed things. And in order to get up and going with the production, they ended up shooting a bunch of this movie using stagecraft. And who better to have your cinematographer be than the guy who has literally helped develop that technology further with his work on The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 with Greg Fraser. So They had some luck in that regard, and I think they really utilized the stagecraft well, but we'll speak about that a little more later. It was edited by William Hoy and Tyler Nelson, music by the great Michael Giacchino. It is a DC film. The runtime of this thing is almost 3 hours long. The budget for this movie was approximately $190 million and made $770 million at the worldwide box office. Which I got to be honest, man, I thought this film was one that should easily clear $1 billion. I don't know if it's because of the time it came out, the pandemic was just sort of loosening up. Um, People were just starting to be comfortable in theaters for the last few months. It's stunning to me that a movie this good did not cross the $1 billion mark.
Yeah, man, that's it's pretty shocking. But it was that time to where people were really just getting back into theaters at a comfortable level, and there's really now in the past few months towards the end of this 2022 year is when at least I start to see the movie theaters really more packed on a consistent basis. So yeah, I mean it kind of makes sense, but yeah, a movie this good definitely deserved to cross that $1 billion mark for sure.
But it didn't get there. It's at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes too, by the way. So there's that. Mike, how hyped were you for the Batman? Because if we can just look back a little bit over time, we can see that The Dark Knight was part 2 of a 3-part movie series, a trilogy, if you will, by Christopher Nolan. And that came out in 2008. The follow-up for that took 4 years, which was 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. So in 2012, 10 years prior, we got The Dark Knight Rises. But since then, we got Batman versus Superman, and we got the Justice League, and then we had Zack Snyder's Justice League, his cut of it, numerous animated projects. I believe the Batman also pops up in what DC TV show is it? I can't remember. There's a DC TV show out there though, with like Nightwing and all of them. I can't remember what it's called, but he pops up then. I know because Jorah from Game of Thrones plays Bruce Wayne. So there's been a lot of Batman during that time. So it's not like the character disappeared off our screen for 10 years. Did you have any excitement at all for this before it came out?
Yeah, man, especially when I found out that Matt Reeves was behind it. I found out that Zoe Kravitz was in it, and honestly, Robert Pattinson. I know that might sound crazy, but I was interested to see what he did with this character as far as Bruce Wayne and the Dark Knight himself and Batman, and I was just intrigued because the last time that's a lovey-dovey person, that's known for romantic movies and more than that as well. But, kind of had their start in the type of romance action type movie, did really well. And with Heath Ledger. And I was like, you know what? You can't put these actors in a bubble. Some of them you can, but I feel like you got to at least give them a chance to go outside of their norm, and that's what Robert Pattinson did with this performance. And then we'll dive into that a little later. But as far as excitement, man, everything around this movie, I was excited for. Just being upfront and honest, I didn't like anything that Batman was in. Batman versus Superman. Personally, I thought it was pretty garbage. I was very close to walking out of that movie. Didn't like any of the Justice League movies. Just was not a big fan of any of the Batmans that had come out since The Dark Knight Rises. So I was really interested to get this side of Batman that really we'd never seen before. And when the trailer started to release, and you kind of get the backstory of what this movie was going to be and exactly what Bruce Wayne and Batman were going to be in this movie, it started to intrigue me more. I figured it would be something that we hadn't seen really ever, or if so, in a really long time. So the excitement was there 100%, man. So there was no, I don't know. It was all there for me. And real quick, just Batman that's my guy. That's my favorite superhero, or of all time. So I enjoy most of the Batman films that have been put out, and this is no different. So the excitement was there for sure.
Um, as a big Matt Reeves guy, even though I'm ashamed to admit I have not seen any of his Apes films. I have not had a chance to see them. Nothing personal, just I'm not a big Planet of the Apes guy. However, Matt Reeves did make one of my favorite films of all time, and that is Cloverfield. So when he was given a chance to come do the Batman, I was like, oh, well, I got to get excited for this. I'm also someone who is extremely high on Robert Pattinson. Like, I think that guy is such a terrific actor. Still not sure I necessarily understand Christopher Nolan's movie Tenet, but his acting in it was very, very good. And he also did The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe. He obviously is known from Twilight specifically, but like I think Mike kind of hit the nail on the head earlier, where if you judge a book by its cover without giving the guy a chance to perform, you just don't know. And like Pattinson in this movie is, in my opinion, everything you could possibly want out of your Batman. That's just my opinion. So like I was pretty heavily sunk into the hype for this movie. I really thought this was going to be the next big thing. The trailers looked good. Still can't believe it didn't make $1 billion worldwide, but that's just it. What was your first experience like seeing this film, man? How did you receive it? Did it live up to expectations? What out of the first viewing that you had really stuck with you?
Really, to me, it's just the acting in this movie. I thought was really good, and what I really loved about this movie was um just Robert Pattinson's portrayal of Batman. I felt like it was a Batman that we had never seen before. You kind of, I don't know if you would, you wouldn't really count him as a superhero, in my opinion, in this movie until maybe the bitter end of this movie. But for the most part of this movie, he doesn't come off as a superhero at all. We get that dark sided Batman that I think really works in this movie, and really works with Robert Pattinson. I just think that he delivers an absolute phenomenal performance. But I remember seeing it in theaters. The runtime of close to 3 hours. It did not feel like 3 hours. I will say on my second watch, I'm sorry, my third watch, which was a few days ago, I felt the runtime a little bit, but nothing that had me bored or anything like that. I just felt it a little bit more. But in that first theater experience, man, I felt like it went by in an hour and 10 minutes. No lie. Like, I was so locked in. I enjoyed so many great moments in it. I was able to see it in IMAX. So um, that was absolutely phenomenal as well, as far as cinematography and sound. So that is obviously going to play a factor into the scores as we get into them here soon. But yeah, man, I had a really good experience watching this movie. I really couldn't ask for anything else as far as theater experience wise. The crowd was good, everybody was quiet. Um, the sound and cinematography were good. Didn't have any issues at the theater at all. So, yeah, man, first experience was good, and I walked out of there really satisfied.
Um, I kind of gave it away earlier, but I got a chance to see the movie in IMAX and VIP the first time, and I honestly don't know if I could have left the movie theater being more happy with the movie we got. Um, I don't know if they could have done anything differently for me, anyways, where I went, "Oh wow, this is something else. This is the best movie ever." I don't know if I was ever going to say that. That's a lofty goal to predict when you're gonna call something the best movie ever. I don't know if I'll ever say that again in my life. However, I do think that it it was a movie that I had very like when you go in to see a movie. I don't know if you ever had this, Mike, but you go, oh, maybe I've let my expectations get a little out of hand, and I myself might
Yeah.
ruin my experience because of my expectations.
Hmm.
I never once felt that way about the Batman. I went in feeling confident, and I left going, that was, I think it was like almost $30 a ticket to get in to see that movie. And I went, yeah, that was worth my money. I'm very, very happy with what I got out of that. And I dig that. So I don't know if you could ask for more out of that in terms of first experience. The sound quality again was the biggest thing I noticed because I seen it in back to back. Was it back to back nights? Within like 48 hours, I seen it twice. 48 to 72 hours. And the sound of IMAX, I think, has the ability to improve any movie going experience. I truly do feel that way. And I think I noticed that it wasn't there on my second viewing. And I don't have like this badass home theater setup. I bet you your setup's better than mine. But it was nice to sit down last night and just be like, wow, dive into this movie and really dig it. I was really worried, especially after you said you weren't sure you felt the same about it as when you first seen it, because I've been dreading watching it since then. And I got, into the movie and I went, no, I fucking love this movie. This movie is great. Um,
Yeah.
so I was happy with that. Modern Script
Good.
Productions says, hello, Shawn and Mike. I just watched The Batman for the first time 2 days ago, and it was fantastic. The visual aesthetic of Gotham City and the performance from Pattinson were amazing. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I'm definitely more of the darker type of Gotham. I feel like we haven't gotten that since '89, since Tim Burton's Batman films. So being able to kind of go back down that road as a real dark Gotham City was really really good to kind of revisit that.
I totally agree. I Don't get me wrong. I like Nolan's Gotham, that realistic. Hey, what
Yeah,
if
yeah,
was here today in our time? I dig that, and this isn't too far off from that. But this has like that sort of dark, gritty vibe. This kind of reminded me of. It reminds me a lot of next week's movie Seven. Cannot wait to hear from Mike on that one. But it also reminded me a little bit about The Crow. I don't know if you've seen The Crow, Mike, but that first Crow movie with Brandon Lee, the late Brandon Lee, the tragedy there that happened while filming that movie. It has that sort of feeling to it, and um, I don't know, it just feels different visually speaking. I know they did some trickery with the film from this movie to make it look a little more vintagey. Um, I know that's terrible terms. I should have researched what they actually did. I've had no time.
I like that
But I
word.
know there's a wonderful, I think it's a 1 hour documentary on the making of this. I think it's on YouTube, and Greg Fraser talks about how they run the film back through some machine in order to make it look like something they filmed 20 years ago or whatever. And it's a very tardy, lengthy process, and that's why like you're not going to see. There's going to be no new Batman movie next year. At least it won't be to this movie. You're looking at 2025 at the earliest. I was thrilled to hear that because it's like take your time and do it right. I almost guarantee you that the next movie won't feel anything like the first movie either, because that's the type of filmmaker Matt Reeves is. He's not going to do the same thing twice. That's just not how he does things. And you'll notice during this DC purge that's happened, they've been like, oh no, the Batman's fine. It's just going to continue to exist on its own over where it is. Same with Joker, but they didn't mind purging any of Snyder's stuff. Any thoughts on all that, Mike? As to how it relates to the Batman?
Not really, man. Like you took the words right out of my mouth. I think we feel the same pretty much about this movie. Um, so yeah, I'm interested to see your scores for sure.
Did you have a stand-up performance in this movie, dude?
Oh man, I don't know. This is really hard for me. Um, I would have to go Robert Pattinson because he basically plays two roles in this movie. But man, I got to be honest with you, man. I love Zoe Kravitz in this movie, and then I thought Colin Farrell really stuck out in this movie as well. Did a really good job. Dude, I like Lieutenant Gordon, and I just think it's perfectly casted. So, but if I have to pick, I'll go Robert Pattinson for playing obviously the double dual role, and hitting on both of them. But honestly, if you pick somebody else, I probably wouldn't argue with you on it.
Yeah, I guess I got ahead of myself here with our MVP thing, but no, it's Pattinson. Pattinson sells this movie. It's also a Batman movie, dude, where we get way more of Batman than we do of Bruce Wayne, and I would say that there hasn't been a whole lot of that.
Yeah, man, it's a good thing, in my opinion. I mean, that's what we come here to
This
see. No
Batman it is
offense.
anyway.
Yeah, I was about to say no offense to Bruce Wayne, but come to the movies to see Batman, man. Give me all the Batman you can give me.
Yeah, and again, I liked his depiction of the character for sure. Um, 3 hour time. Again, I'm not going to say that this movie should have been 3 hours long. I do think you can probably find 10 or 15 minutes in this movie where you can go, yeah, maybe this was too much. Um, and I honestly, I think you and I have touched on it a little bit here lately as we go. Um, I think there's a lot of movies that could use some trimming. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a 3 hour movie because I think when it's deservedly so, it's really, really good. But when it's not,
Yeah.
it can really drag on.
Yeah, and that's it. I kind of felt the runtime, like I said again, in the this recent watch, but not to the point where I felt bored or anything. So yes, they could have cut it off, some time off, but I do think that this is one of the movies that you can give a pass to for being close to 3 hour runtime. Um, yes, to your point, they could definitely cut some off, but this is a movie that can get away with that 3 hour runtime because it is very good.
Um, yeah, sorry, I hear my kid downstairs causing crap. Um, bloody kids. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I dig this movie. I like the detective aspect of this movie too. Like in a lot of Batman's written material, he is supposed to be like the world's greatest detective. And other than like a brief time in Dark Knight, we don't see a lot of the detective stuff. We see a little bit in Batman Begins too, I guess, but like this movie, he's full on detective. And I
Yeah, I
dug
think that Yeah, I think that's what I really love about this too. I think him and Robert Pattinson and Jeffrey Wright's connection in this movie. Jeffrey Wright is James Gordon. Really work well together. I think that their investigative skills are top notch. It just works really well, and I love that we are getting that investigative side of Batman in this movie that we don't really get in a lot of movies. I think the one that sticks out is Batman Begins. You get it in there, but really outside of that, this definitely is full fledged Batman the investigator. And I thought that Batman and Lieutenant Gordon's relationship in this movie really worked as well as investigators.
It's funny you bring him up because my oldest guy asks me as we're watching the movies, like, which Gordon do you like better? Do you like this one or the one from the Dark Knight trilogy? I'm like, oh, don't do that to me. I
That's
love
tough.
I love Jeffrey Wright, but like you're asking me to vote against 3 movies of Gary Oldman. Like,
Yeah, that's tough. I would probably have to go with Gary Oldman on that one. So,
for now, I'm going with Oldman
um,
for now. I wouldn't say that it's impossible for Wright to pass him, but
yeah, I totally agree. And real quick, I want to touch on and we'll probably dive into it a little bit when we get into the story of the writing, which I thought was really good. I'll be honest though, I really wanted to see a little bit more Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz in this movie. But again, it's a 3 hour movie, so how much can you really fit in? You know what I mean? Maybe that's something we'll get in the next one. You just never know. Um, but yeah, man, man, she was really good in this movie, and their connection was really good in this movie. Like, it didn't feel overboard. I thought her as Catwoman, like Catwoman, really fit into this movie. Didn't feel overbearing or anything crazy. I think this movie is just very well casted. Um,
Oh, so
it,
well,
it
so well done.
yeah. So yeah, man, that would be my only quote unquote complaint is I felt like they deserved a little bit more screen time because their chemistry was so well. But maybe that's asking for a little too much.
Yeah, it was very, very well. I dug it a lot. Zoe Kravitz was great. I loved her portrayal of Selena Kyle. I would not be shocked though if they don't bring her back in the next film and save her for. I don't know if they're planning 3 films or 4 films or 5 films. I don't know what the plan
Yeah.
is. My guess is it's 3 because of how long it's taken them to make each one and how much time goes into them. Um, but I wouldn't count out seeing Kravitz before that again as Selena Kyle and something else because I know they're planning some TV stuff around Colin Farrell's Penguin. So
Yeah.
um, I just think you'll see them use some different villains this time around. You know that didn't get used specifically in the Nolan trilogy. Not saying they won't go back to that well, but I think they're looking to showcase some other ones, similar to what Spider-Man did.
Yeah, I just think, man, I don't know if I don't think that they would bring back Bane. Personally, I don't think so. Maybe they will, but I just think that Bane, in my opinion, is hard to top. I thought he just did such a really, really good job in The Dark Knight Rises. So,
I dug him. Johnny on the channel hates him. He can't stand that performance.
well,
So.
Johnny doesn't like that movie, so he doesn't know what he's talking about anyway. So,
Damn right. Hear that, Johnny? Fuck you. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's dive into the scores a bit here. Let's dive into it. Should we just do this like we did in Patreon? Pull up the scores and go through them?
yeah, I think so. I think again, I really like having the in-depth discussion about the entire film in the beginning. I think that really, really works good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know we spent probably more time than we needed to um, on the franchise fatigue. However, I do think franchise fatigue is a very real thing. I just think some
Yeah.
franchises handling it a little bit differently than others. So,
Yep.
sorry, I am looking for something to pull up here, and I think I have lost it, which is not good. Um,
Could be worse, I guess.
I thought it had it handy, but I do not. So apologies for that. But let's go up and oh, sorry, I do have it here. Before we dive into our scores for this week, let's dive in to what you might have missed over on our Patreon. Oh, not mean to do that. Apologies. Patreon this past week, we did Halloween 78, the Overlook Drive-In. We had Tommy B on the show. I think this might have been Tommy and Matt's first appearance actually doing a movie on the Overlook Drive-In. I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. And I think Tommy came in swinging, man. He just wanted to shit all over this movie, and that's what he did.
I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, Tommy was less than kind. Let's just say that. He wasn't less than kind, but you'll have to tune into the episode because I'm not going to get into the player specific scores, but be on the lookout for that over on our Patreon. If you can't find the link for it and you are a member of our Patreon at the gold room tier or higher, send me a message and I will link you to the video. Now that the holidays are done, you'll see some reformatting happening over there in terms of how you're able to find videos and stuff, and you'll see content go back to a normal pace on the channel. But I can tell you this, the 4 of us combined for a score of 87.8%, and this the score between Mike and I, which is the official Overlook Drive-In score for Halloween, was 94.5%, good for second place.
Yep.
Mike had 99% for Halloween. I had 90% for Halloween. And if you missed it last night, we were doing some gaming. Wasn't much of an audience last night, but we're gonna work on improving that as we go here. The best couch co-op / split screen games of all time while playing some Star Wars Battlefront 2. It was a lot of fun. It was a good time. We talked about a lot of Nintendo games, like regular Nintendo games, like Double Dragon and Battletoads and crap like that. So you want to get geeky gaming stuff, that was on last night's episode. But without further ado, let's dive into our scores for Matt Reeves' The Batman. Mike had story and pacing at 8.5. I had it at 9.5. Acting, I had at a 10. Mike had it a 9. Cinematography, we both had at 9.5. Writing and directing, Mike had at a 9. I had it a 10. And sound and score, Mike had it a 9. And I had it a 10. That brought our individual scores for this movie up to 98% for me and 90% for Mike, giving The Batman an overall score of 94%, bringing our podium currently at the Overlook Drive-In to these three films: The Shining at 96.5%, Halloween at 94.5%, and The Batman at 94%. That is where we sit. I'll be honest, I don't know what Mike's going to think of 7, but if it hits with him, 7's got a chance to contend next week. We'll see. That'll be up to Mike.
Ooh, interesting. I'm watching it this week, so maybe over the next couple days, if I get some time. So we'll see.
Did you have a favorite kill when I have you here? Favorite kill in this movie?
I probably had to.
It's hard to have a favorite kill in this movie. There's not really.
Yeah, I'll probably have to go with the mayor. Just thinking of how gruesome it is and what he went through. So I'd probably go with the mayor.
Yeah, that was pretty fucked up.
I mean, that's a nice way to put it.
I will second that. But with that said, it is time that we start wrapping things up at these parts. And first up, it's Mike. What do you got going on lately, dude?
Not a whole lot, man. Getting ready to kick off the new year with some really good guests for the Take One podcast. Super excited to dive into that. So make sure you are following me on Twitter at @MichaelBish_, following me on Instagram at mbish7, or no, wow, at mbish_ on Instagram, and then the Take One podcast on Instagram as well. Take One podcast, Take One pod, I believe, _. I don't know. Just find it. Just type in Take One podcast, and then Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and be on there as well.
You can catch us next Tuesday, I believe, back at our regular time of 9 p.m. Eastern, talking about 7. That's right, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, that pig Kevin Spacey, and more. So check us out then. And then on the Monday, actually, you can catch us back with Monday Night Fandom, playing a game and talking about something random. So be on the lookout for that. Big thank you to our channel sponsors, Mr. Chris C _78. If you're looking for a Myers mask, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, maybe something custom, check him out. Twitter, Instagram, Chris C _78. Good dude, great work. The guy to go to. Our friend Jesse at Bunce Force Trauma, Tasty Treat Master at yahoo.com, soundcloud.com/Bunce Force Trauma, and /Bunce Force Trauma on Facebook. And a big thank you to our guy at Backtrack Cinema, Mr. Jason Knight. You can check out his 2 new videos, 80s horror, no slashers, top 10, and a movie review of A Nightmare on Elm Street. His latest movies up on his channel now. Go check them out. But for Mike and Shawn, everybody else at the channel, take it easy. Happy New Year. We'll see you next week. The Batman, hell of a film. Fucking The Shining's. It almost seems biased, man. The Shining is in first place. What'll happen?
Yeah, good luck. Good luck removing that.
Good luck indeed. We'll catch you on the flip side, everybody. Take it easy.